actually sniffed out a clue. Like a dog. I'm having mixed feelings about this. Welcome to another episode of the Unmasked History of Scooby-Doo, the podcast where we delve into the mystery of Scooby-Doo media, getting clues from people who helped bring our favorite mystery-solving dog to life on various platforms, and maybe eating some Scooby snacks along the way. I'm your host, Alexa Lawler.
Maybe it's me who needs to understand Fred. You know, walk a mile in his ascot.
So, let me get this straight. To stop annoying Fred, you're going to become Fred, which is guaranteed to annoy Fred?
Sandwich, big sandwich.
Build that sandwich high.
Sandwich, big sandwich.
Up into the sky.
He used to say, "Whoa, nobody move. My tuna fish sandwich is missing."
Well, that's a weird thing to say.
Welcome to the third episode in this month's Be Cool Scooby-Doo theme. This week we have director James Krenzke, who worked on about 15 to 17 episodes in the series. Let's get right into the interview. Hi James, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Sure, anytime.
Now, if you're up for it, I'd like to start off with 3 quick questions of Scooby-Doo related trivia.
Okay.
So, question 1. Why is Fred in court in The People vs. Fred Jones?
Well, he is accused of stealing a bunch of goods from an abandoned town in that episode.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And question 2. In the Ghost in the Mystery Machine episode, what is the name of the town?
The Ghost in the Mystery Machine was the name of the town. The town that... I remember most of that takes place in the desert, doesn't it?
Yes, most of it does, but they stop in a certain town, which is their second mystery in that town.
Ooh, you know what? I don't recall that one. Sorry.
The name of the town is Velasco.
Velasco, okay. I do remember, wasn't there, I think we hit a little Easter egg in that one where, is that episode where they say, like, Bud from the gas station's going to flip out or something? Is that?
I don't
that might be a
remember
different
off
episode.
the top of my head. That might be that one.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that was referenced to an earlier episode about something about there's a school that they try to figure out. There's a ghost in the school.
Definitely.
Yeah. Anyway, rambling. Sorry.
No problem. And last question for the trivia. Which member of the gang's backstory do we get to see in the episode Professor Huh, Part 1 and Part 6 3/4?
That'd be Fred.
Yes, that is correct. And to kick off the general questions here, what is your relationship to Scooby-Doo? Did you grow up watching it all?
Yeah, I did. Watched the original series. I don't think I saw all the episodes, but you know, mostly they were on TV. We didn't have streaming or internet when I was a kid, so we had to wait for the time when it would air, and I'd pick it up when I could. And it's pretty popular here in the U.S. And also overseas. I know they're always producing, you know, a different take on it because it plays really well over there. So about every 2 years, there's a new Scooby-Doo.
Definitely. And how did you personally come to work in animation?
How did I in high school, I drew a lot, and I grew up in Burbank. So I went to Burbank High, and pretty much Burbank is the hub of the United States for animation. We had Warner Brothers, Disney, Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network. All these stations were in Burbank. So Burbank High School actually had a animation program. So I joined that, and a startup company called XOW came around to all the high schools in Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena, and they were just looking for kids like me at a high school that were good in art, that we could join the company and we can do some designs and animation for them. And we ended up making this software that teaches kids how to animate and how to draw. Unfortunately, it never got released. We kept on redoing it over and over again. I guess as the times changed, as we were producing it, we had stylistic changes, so we kept on redoing it. And the last iteration of that was stop motion. So I got to work in stop motion animation a lot. And then from there, I kind of saw how animation was changing. I think around then it was about 2002, 2003 or 4, when the traditionally animated films in the box office weren't doing so well. So I knew that drawing and stop motion probably were not going to be the career choice to go forward. So I got into digital. So I got into, back then it was called Flash. Now it's called Animate, Adobe Animate. And I worked for a company called 6 Point Harness. And we did a lot of animator or Flash, Adobe Flash work. I think I worked there for about 6 years. And then from there, I went to Film Roman and I worked on Dan Versus. And I was able to direct on that show. And when we did that for 3 seasons, I think, and once that was done, I came over to Warner Brothers and worked on Teen Titans Go for a season. And then when I heard that they were redoing Scooby-Doo, I jumped on that. I asked if I could direct on that show because I was a big fan of Scooby-Doo. And I knew this was a new kind of comedic take on it. And that's how I got into Scooby-Doo. And now I'm back at Teen Titans Go.
Awesome. And was working in animation something that you had always pictured yourself doing?
No, I have like these old videos of me in elementary school saying I wanted to be a pilot. And it's ironic because I hate flying now, like not just the cramped plane and all that stuff, but being up in the air. I didn't have a problem with it when I was young, but getting older, I guess I don't like being so high off the ground. But yeah, I think I was just, my parents always were great with encouraging me to draw and pursue my artistic side. So I was always drawing, and I just kind of grew into the field. I think it was never anything I really was pursuing, I would say.
Oh, awesome. And for those that maybe don't know, can you just describe what the role of a director does, especially on Be Cool?
Sure. So this varies by production. Pretty much all the productions that I've worked on have gone this way, where the director gets a script. We usually have 2 or 3 storyboard artists on our team. We roll out the script to our storyboard team. And the projects that I've worked on, they've allowed us some leeway to rewrite. So during that process of storyboarding, I'm usually rewriting. I'm sitting with the producers or the writer, and we're rewriting things that we think we can make funnier or that don't really work story-wise, or that feel a little bit out of character. And so once we get the storyboard finished, we make an animatic. And an animatic is something that we take all the drawings and we time them out. We add our own music, we add our own sound effects, and we present it as something that you can just press play and you can watch basically all the way through with all of the acting, all the music, all the sound effects, the voices, everything's in there. So it makes it really easy to see what the final episode is going to look like. And then from there, in a lot of productions, the director's done. So once they finish their storyboard or animatic, they're usually finished. But the projects that I've worked on, I was lucky enough to be able to take it through design, through animation. So I was able to look at all the keys. The keys are like a very rough version of animation. It's just the main poses, the big poses that they send over, either from Canada or from Korea. I'm able to look at those and fix any poses or timing that I think needs to be fixed, and then send it back. Then it comes back to me again for take ones and take twos of animation. And then once that is all done, I'm able to sit with the post-production team and we add our special effects and things like that. And then after that, we go into mix. And mix is where we do our final pass of sound effects and music and voices and make sure that all the levels are good and that we get all the sound effects that we want in there. And then when it's done, I get to sit in this thing called an online, which is the very last step. That's the last chance I have to make any notes, because after that, it goes straight to the network. They online it basically, and they send it over to the network, and then they air it. So I, as a director, I'm lucky because I get to sit through the entire process from script to screen. A lot of shows, I know The Simpsons and other shows like at Disney, they have other directors that take over. Once the storyboard director is done, the animation director will take over, and then they'll take it to online. But I have a different process.
And what is it like when you're working on a series with, maybe multiple directors working on different episodes? Do you communicate to try and keep the show consistent?
I try. It's difficult because each director is kind of in their own little bubble trying to finish their episode. So sometimes it comes into effect when we have a multi-parter. So if we have a two-parter or even a four-parter, we have to make sure that things are consistent. But usually the ones that'll keep an eye on that are like the supervising director or the producer. Either Luke Cormigan or Pete McHale will, when they review my animatic, they'll say, oh, well, Ken, the other director, did this, so we want to make sure that they hook up. So they'll let me know something that another director has done. It's a little difficult to kind of step outside your own episode while you're directing it because you're so involved, and these things are produced at such a fast clip. And also, you're not only directing on one episode at once. So in our production, I'm usually working on about 3 episodes at one time. So while I'm doing the storyboards for one episode, animation will come in and I'm doing keys at the same time. And then as I'm doing those keys, there'll be a mix for another episode or an online. So I'm kind of juggling 3 episodes at once. So it's a little difficult to get out of, your own little box and make sure that everything's hooking up. But they do get hooked up by the producers and the supervising director, and we eventually get it all looking nice and consistent.
And when you're working on multiple episodes at a time, what does a typical day look like for you? How are you breaking things up?
Usually, I would say the days are very different, but the months are probably the same. So at the beginning of each month, we usually break a new episode. So what will happen is that first week, it'll be me breaking down the script and making sure that my storyboard artists are ready to go and they're going in the right direction, and that I answer any questions that they have. And then they start thumbnailing their storyboards, which are very rough drawings. And then in the second week, I'll either some keys will be coming in, or I'll be asked design questions, or go to a mix or something like that, or an online for another episode, while the board artists are working. And I'm giving notes to them as well as things are coming in from their side. And that continues through the third week. And then at the fourth week is our last week for that new storyboard. So that's when we're wrapping everything up. So I'm usually grabbing all of the files from my board artists as they're finishing them, and then I'm tweaking them. So I'm maybe correcting some timing or some designs, or, moving around some dialogue or things like that while I prepare it for pitch. And pitch is when we turn in our animatic and we basically pitch it to the producers and see what they think. And if they have any notes, then we take that back and we address that. So yeah, that's the month usually. Per day, those things like mixes and onlines and things can fall on, any kind of day during the week, depending on schedule. So sometimes it'll be kind of relaxed. I'll be able to schedule my day where I know exactly, to the hour what I'm going to do. And sometimes when a lot of episodes are coming in at once, because of the way that the schedule is and their air dates, we might have a couple of holiday specials or something that come up. And if I worked on both of those holiday specials, they need to hit certain dates. So um, all the animation for both episodes will be coming in at one time. And then another mix for another episode will be coming in. And then I'm working on a storyboard. So those crunch weeks are really tough because everything will kind of pile on at once. And it never feels like we have enough time. But magically, it all gets done at the end. I don't know how, but it does.
Somehow it all gets done.
Yeah, we pull through somehow.
And so, roughly, what's your timeline from script to screen?
So from script to screen, it takes about a year, maybe 10 months to a year, something like that. So writing the script maybe takes a month or a couple months, and then it goes into boards, and storyboards usually take about a month, and then design I think takes about a month or two. And then it goes to animation, I think, for about 6 months, 6 to 8 months. And then when that comes back, it goes into post. That takes about another month. And post is when we kind of sweeten all the special effects and things like that. We add glows to lights, and whenever somebody's shooting a laser, we make it look nice, and we punch up maybe some reflections in a mirror or in a window or something like that. And then after that, we do the mix. So that probably takes about another month. And the mixers prepare all the sound effects. And then when they're done, I go to that mix and I review it with them. And then after that is the online about another month later. So yeah, about a year.
It's quite a while.
Yeah. Whenever I take freelance, freelance is like, side gigs. When I take a side job, people that aren't in the animation industry usually think that, oh, it's no big deal. You can finish, this animation in a couple of days or so, right? It's hard for people to grasp how involved and how long animation takes, because you're doing a new frame of animation, drawing. In our case, I think we do it on two, so it's about once every, or 12 frames a second, so 12 drawings or 12 poses a second. So that's a lot of posing, and cleanup and coloring and painting the backgrounds and things like that. So a lot of people don't realize how long this process is, but it's worth it.
Definitely. And specifically for Be Cool, out of the episodes that you directed, do you have either a favorite or one that sticks out in your mind the most?
It's funny. I sometimes when I'm when I'm out, like maybe I'll be in Texas or something, and I'll see, one of the old, or I'll go to the Alamo or something, right? And then I'll remember, like, oh, this kind of reminds me of El Bandito, that episode, or I'll see a picture of a swamp and I'll remember the when I worked on that swamp episode. So they all kind of have like a special place in my heart, and they always remind me of certain things of when I worked on it, and I'm all proud of all of them, really. The ones that I think I got the most compliments on that are others' favorites are El Bandito. I know Space, when they went to space, that got a lot of love. Also, the Ghost and Mystery Machine one, and I forget the actual name of it, but it's the one where they have this giant jet, this jumbo jet, Gremlins on a Plane, I think it's called. Yeah, and so a lot of stuff from, I think, the second season came out really well. That's when we finally found our formula and our footing. We were kind of working that out in the first season. So even though, the first episodes came out really good, but they were very difficult to produce because we weren't exactly sure what direction we wanted to go in. Originally, the show was kind of pitched as more of a Family Guy style comedy where, the characters would kind of stand around and crack jokes. And then as we produced it and we got going, it turned into this huge kind of adventure series where we had these huge action scenes, and lots of backgrounds and really cinematic storytelling. So yeah, like I just recalled the Kanyaku episode where they go to Japan, and that was a big one to produce because we had big crowds and we had all these new buildings that we had to to do, and this arcade where they dance and all this stuff. So yeah, it didn't turn out the way we originally planned, but for the better. I think we really pushed ourselves and we made it try to be the best that it could be.
And what was your favorite part of being able to work on the show?
I for a long time, I was kind of doing I don't want to say kids animation, younger animation that skewed younger, I would say. Um, so we leaned heavily on the gags, and we didn't really put all our emphasis on the storytelling aspect of it. And with Scooby, we really got to do that. We made sure that the mysteries made sense, and we really worked hard on trying to plan out the best way to tell the mystery and when to reveal certain things and certain clues and things like that, and really pushed the cinematic storytelling of it. So I think my favorite aspect of Be Cool is that I got to stretch my legs from a cinematic point of view where I was really able to it almost felt like doing feature work where we put a lot of effort into what angles we chose and the lighting and things like that to make it spooky, and even those like when it's usually Velma who wraps up the episode and reveals how everything works out. We really tried to make that a little bit different, where she would step into scene and they would kind of turn into these kind of like blueprints, and they would kind of cross dissolve with this cloud effect and all that kind of stuff. So we really wanted to make it something different than a Scooby that you've seen before. So yeah, I'd say that was probably my favorite aspect of it.
Definitely. And do you have any favorite memories or fun stories from working on the show that you want to share at all?
Um, you know, Producing Scooby, we actually went through like I wouldn't say it wasn't turmoil, but it was like for example, first we were on the ranch, which was the Warner Brothers. So at Warner Brothers Animation, we actually work on it. It's called a working lot where they actually shoot live action. They have sound stages there, and they shoot like commercials and shows. They're shooting the middle while we were there. Um, so we were there at first, and then we got moved to the Burbank studios, which was down the street. Um, so there was a lot of right in the middle of production. There just wasn't any more space. So Warner Brothers was producing so much content that they had to fit all these staff members somewhere. So they moved us to a bigger building. But yeah, we had to pick up everything and we had to move to this new building. And then learning, even though it's just a drive down the street, basically you're learning like your new little territory of where to go to eat and all this stuff. And so I think we finished out the season there in the Burbank studios. But it was very interesting and kind of fun actually to be on the ranch for a little bit and get to know the ranch, where you're outdoors and they have like this kind of park area and all these houses that are sets, and so you can kind of take your walk in this like little neighborhood when you want to get out and stretch your legs. And then moving to the Burbank studios is a whole new thing. It's like Jay Leno was there, and they had this iHeartRadio, these concerts going on there, and so it was a whole different vibe and these massive sound stages and this area that you could walk through and discover. So yeah, each little area had its own little like adventure to go and explore. It was pretty neat.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And other than having to pick up and move, were there any challenges working on Scooby at all?
There were. I mean, aside from the show turned out to be much bigger than we anticipated. So we were always stretching the budget and time limits and things like that. And um, I won't say that it was easy making Scooby because, we just, our ambitions were so high. We wanted to make it so awesome. Uh, but it was never really thought of that way in the beginning. So we never were really budgeted for that. So that was kind of a struggle. Um, we switched producers, I think the middle of season 2. Um, and that was a little bit difficult. So whenever, when you have your groove going in animation, whenever there's these kind of big change ups, it always kind of disrupts. It's like kicking an anthill and, all the ants scatter. And we're trying to figure out what to do. But we gather ourselves pretty quickly and we're able to keep moving. But yeah, it's felt like something happened about like every 6 months or so where it was just like, oh no, how are we going to deal with this? It was a big explosion and then we had to pick up the pieces and put it all back together. But hopefully that doesn't show in the series. I think we were able to get all of our episodes to a good point where they all look, polished and they all are consistent in quality. But yeah, besides that, I mean, every day has its challenges, but yeah, nothing that nothing that really crazy goes on. I know, like when I visited Nickelodeon Studios, and they have all these when I was young, and they had these back then. It was like slime and stuff. They had these slime like walls, and it looked like a really fun place. And I was like, oh, all these crazy things must happen here. They must be having like food fights with pies and like they're bringing llamas in here. And it's just nuts because artists are crazy. But you're always working so hard that none of that stuff really goes on. You're always you have your head down on your desk and you're just trying to get it done. So yeah, I mean, aside from like the occasional pizza party or something, we were mostly working, so not much time for shenanigans. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
And were there any challenges, although you're not, directly writing the script or anything, were there any challenges in keeping to the mystery format with like, revealing clues and things like that?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, we, first season we were still trying to find our footing. I would say it's our formula, quote unquote. So a script would come in, and eventually we got to this point where at the very opening we kind of have this. We called it a cold open, where you just open on some characters. It's not your characters. It's not the Scooby Gang, but you basically introduce the monster, and then you go to your intro credits, and then you go to your to introducing the gang, and then they show up in this place, and then they find out there's a mystery, and then usually they Scooby and Shaggy go off on their own, and they meet the monster for the first time, and so they have some kind of some adventure with the monster. Either it's a chase or it's this thing that we have. I forget what it's called. We had a name for it, but basically where Scooby and Shaggy trick the monster into being part of their little skit. So, like for example, in the swamp episode that I did, the swamp monster's chasing them, and they hide in a bush. And when the swamp monster jumps, through the bushes and tries to find them, they're there with drums and a trumpet, playing music because it's Mardi Gras. And they get the swamp monster involved, and they strap some drums on the swamp monster and tell him to start playing. So he's the swamp monster doesn't know what to do, so he starts playing the drums, and they go as a marching band. And then Scooby and Shaggy have an opportunity to run off, and the swamp monster's there just playing and grooving out until he realizes like, oh, what am I doing? And then he realizes Scooby and Shaggy are gone, and then he roars or whatever. So that happens usually, and then Scooby and Shag go meet up with the gang, tell them that there's a monster. They don't believe them usually. And then a little bit of mystery solving goes on, and then the monster shows up again, and the whole gang this time usually has a chase. And this is an example of when originally how we thought of it was, these chases would be our classics Scooby-Doo tropes where they're running down hallways that are looped for a long time, and they're going through doors, and they're doing that thing where they pop up through things like gophers or something, where their heads will come up and then they'll go back down and they'll pop up in a different place. So we tried that for a little bit at the beginning, and we figured, you know what, let's just go all out, and we'll just do I think the first episode that had this was my space episode with the UFO. I just said, let's just have this spaceship just going through this area 52, I think we called it, or 51 adjacent or something like that. And it'll just be this big kind of like Spielberg style, chase where they're on top of this ship, and it's careening through this facility, and they're flying all over the place and slipping around and stuff, and they're all trying to grab this one thing that's like an orb or some kind of piece of this technology from the spaceship. So in that sense, the scripts originally were not set up to how it was eventually produced. So once we found out how to tell these the best way to tell these episodes with our formula, then it came pretty easy. Then the scripts that were coming in were following that formula, and it all worked. But yeah, in the beginning, we were doing a lot of rewriting and trying to figure out how to tell these episodes.
And with Be Cool being quite a different take on Scooby-Doo, what was it like to play with these iconic characters?
It was pretty cool. I do remember when I first came on board, I walked into the office of Zach Moncrief, the producer of the show, and on the ground he had the new designs there, and I looked at them, and I was just I was taken aback because they're so different than what we're used to for Scooby. And I was unsure, I wasn't sure if I liked them. I wasn't sure if they would play right for Scooby-Doo. But after a while, after drawing these characters and using them the way that we used them for comedy, and even in the action sequences, how well that they were able to animate, they kind of grew on me. So I was able to to kind of adapt and use those designs and things like that to make this kind of new Scooby-Doo that really leaned heavily on comedy and action and adventure and things like that. So yeah, does that answer your question? I don't know. I'm kind of trailing off. I'm just rambling here.
No, it definitely answers the question for sure.
Okay, good.
And going off of the designs there, that is one of the general complaints of the show for people who, before they start watching it, is the art style. What would you maybe say to people who, tend to refuse to watch the show because of the designs?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I totally get you. I understand, because that's the first thing that grabs an audience is the design. It's a poster or it's a trailer, and when you first see something, that's one of your first indications of, am I going to watch this or not? So the designs, I would say going online and reading all these comments about, yes, the designs really kind of put people off, or they're really jarring just because they're so different. I would say give Be Cool Scooby-Doo a chance, because it really is. And again, all of the comments that I read, they say, yeah, I hate the designs, but once I started watching it, it's one of the best shows ever, So if you can get past the designs and just watch one episode, I think you're going to fall in love with it, and you're really going to like it. And then you'll probably come to understand why those designs were chosen because they really play well with the comedy. Um, you know, any other designs might not have made it as funny as it is, and I think the humor is one of Be Cool Scooby Doo's strongest points.
Definitely. And what was it like to come in to work on a show with the characters that you had grown up watching?
Yeah, it was like one of those dream come true kind of scenarios where I never thought that I would be working on such an iconic show. Um, that's why I jumped on it when I heard that they were producing this and they were looking for a director. I raised my hand. I said, "Hey, I can do that," because yeah, I saw it as a big opportunity, and I really, the fond memories that I have of watching Scooby Doo when I was young. Um, I was able to kind of instill that into the show as well. So it's almost kind of, yeah, like a dream project. Even though it was different and we were able to put our own spin on it. Yeah, I thought it was great. It's a great opportunity.
Definitely. And if you had the chance, would you take on another Scooby project?
Oh, sure, yeah. Um, I've been talking to the people at Warner Brothers. I know that they have a lot of direct-to-video Scooby Doo stuff going on. Um, and I would love to do one of those. I know that they have a new Scooby Doo in production, a new series. They're always going to have a new series. I think it's funny. I looked this up online, and I don't think any Scooby Doo series has gone more than 2 seasons. It seems like the original did, but I think after the second season, they switched up the title or something, and they kind of made it a new show. I might be wrong about that, but it looks like every 2 years there's a new, or every 2 seasons, I would say there's a new Scooby Doo. So there's always a new opportunity to do something different with Scooby Doo. So yeah, if they would have me, I would love to do another Scooby Doo. Definitely.
Awesome. And why do you think that Scooby Doo has lasted for over 50 years now?
I think it's definitely the characters, um, and the characters within the scenarios that they're put in. So you've just got these lovable kids. Uh, it's kind of like, I don't know, I might be dating myself. The Goonies, if anybody has ever heard of the Goonies, um, it's just this group of kids that go on adventures, and in Goonies they're searching for treasure, and in Scooby they're trying to solve this mystery, and they each have their own personality traits, and how they play against each other is really fun, and how Scooby is always so innocent and lovable, and that relationship between Shaggy and Scooby is so heartwarming. And even within the different Scooby series, they're able to play with some of those relationships a little bit. Like I know in Mystery Inc., um, they had Daphne and Fred kind of in a romantic relationship, and Shaggy and Velma in the same. So they're able to always kind of tweak things around for each series, and make it their own, which I think is pretty cool. Um, and yeah, so there's still so much that can be done, I think, with these characters, and but without abandoning what makes them so great, is their like personality, and the fact that they all lend something to this group of mystery solvers.
Definitely. I think that covers all of the questions that I had here written down for you. Is there anything else that you wanted to add at all?
Um, no, I mean, for those that haven't seen Be Cool Scooby Doo, I would just encourage them to give it a shot. It feels like everybody that has seen it has really liked it. So, and I know everybody that worked on the show is really proud of what they did. So, yeah, I would just encourage them to seek it out. I think, is it on Boomerang? Is that where it's?
Yes.
Okay, it's on Boomerang. Um, but maybe eventually it'll come to HBO Max or something like that. I'm not sure. We'll see. But if you can catch it, I'd recommend you do.
Definitely. And just before we end here, are there any recent projects that you want to promote at all, or if there's any social media where people can follow what you're up to?
You know what? I should be on social media. I'm not really. I don't really promote myself, but I need to get into that. So nothing on social media, but I am currently on Teen Titans Go for Warner Brothers, and we're making some really cool, fun episodes that are coming out soon. So stay tuned for the New Year's and the Thanksgiving and Christmas episodes that are coming. Um, we just finished this Night Begins to Shine special, Teen Titans Go, which is really cool. It's kind of a different take on Teen Titans. It's a more serious throwback to '80s, just being radical and awesome with cool music and all kinds of neon and neat character designs. And so that already aired, but if you haven't seen it, check that out. That's something that we put a lot of work into, and hope it came out really good. And also go see the new Scooby-Doo. Guess Who? I think it's called. Um, or Scooby-Doo and Guess Who. I hear that's really funny. I haven't seen any, but I know a lot of people that worked on that series, and I'm hearing it came out really good. So check that out. And yeah, and the Scooby movie, obviously, which I thought came out pretty good too.
Definitely. Perfect. Well, thank you so much again for taking the time to chat with me today, James.
Sure, anytime.
And that concludes today's episode. Another huge thank you to James Krenzke for chatting with me. For more groovy content, be sure to check at Unmasked SD on Twitter, at Unmasked SD Podcast on Instagram, or at unmaskedsdpodcast.com. You can also find the podcast on Facebook under the Unmasked History of Scooby-Doo podcast. If you liked this episode and want to hear more, also make sure to check those social media channels or the website. Or you can listen to older episodes wherever you like to get your podcast fix. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for the next episode in this month's Be Cool Scooby-Doo theme, which features writer Josie Campbell. Scooby-Dooby-Doo!